All right, it's time to call to order the beer board for June 27th, 2019. Find our agenda. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. Board
Move
have a
to
chance?
approve.
Second.
Any questions?
None.
All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Okay, approval of the minutes have been approved. Next is a beer permit request. It's an approval of a Class 4 on-premise tavern permit for the Admiral Pub, 143 Brooklawn Street.
Yes, sir. Currently, this space is occupied by the Casual Pint, and they currently have a Class 4 permit. All the details and information for the Admiral Pub is in order, and the motion is to approve the Class 4 on-premise tavern permit, subject to obtaining the business and the certificate of occupancy for 143 Brooklawn Street.
Do I have a motion?
Move to, second.
All right, do we have a representative here? Yes, sir. Would you please step up to the podium? State your name and your home address, please.
Hi, I'm Andy Fox. I live at 12740 Sail Point Lane, Knoxville.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about what you're going to plan on doing. I know you're a new owner now, so
Yeah, it's I've been accustomed. Well, first of all, I've been in the business for 30 years. So I run 4 restaurants in Tellico Village currently: the Yacht Club, Tanasi Golf Course Restaurant, Tokwa, which is now being rebuilt. It'll be a new sports bar in a couple of months, and the restaurant at Kahiti. So I've been in the restaurant business for 30 years. Started bartending at 17. I mean, it's in my blood. Met Pat and Barb a couple of years ago as a patron there. Pat has wanted out of CP for quite some time, so him and I struck a deal. They're going off into their retirement, and so being there, very similar. I see the need for a spot for folks like myself. I live in Falcon Point, and I'm surrounded by folks in my 40 to 60 age bracket that just want to grab a beer after work and have a nice clean spot. We are going to get a liquor license. I currently have a liquor license at Tellico. I don't see any trouble getting another liquor license for here. They currently have a liquor license and they serve wine only, which I will do the same up front. I definitely do not foresee a full bar scenario. But I also got the space, the landlord gave me the space next to it, which is about 500 or 600 square foot of just dead space. So I'm going to knock that wall. I'd like to knock that wall out and just add, a golden tee and maybe some video games for the kids, still be family friendly, maybe a foosball table, a small pool table kind of thing. But just a little more for folks to be able to kind of hang out. I'm going to darken the color a little bit. I'm going to soften the room a little bit. It's a little starchy for me. But there's really not a lot of change. We're going to keep the craft beers. We're going to keep the taps. We're going to keep a very similar demographic if we can, and just market more. I mean, I'm planning on marketing that to that whole area by the Weigels, where the Don Gallo is, where Ball Homes is taken over there. There's just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of households of families just like myself that need a place to go and grab a beer. So,
thank you for that. Based on your comments, I have a question for staff. A year or so ago, 2 years ago, when we approved the expansion of the Casual Pint, does this allow the addition of the extra space?
Well, that's what we've talked about that, and we'll have to evaluate that space to see how many square feet it will add. The Casual Pint owners did come to us a couple years ago, and we did bump that. It was 3,000, then we bumped it up to 3,500 because of the kitchen area that he was acquiring next door. So
it wasn't a kitchen; it was a prep area. So
a prep area, yeah. But it was encompassing, and it was his usable space. So yeah, we've talked about Mr. Fox and I have talked about when he evaluates how much square footage that is. We'll need to come back to the beer board and to the mayor and alderman for them to petition to change that requirement in the ordinance.
Yeah, just want to make sure you're aware of that and that there's been discussion.
Yeah, so there's I'm not paying additional rent for the space. The landlord said, look, if you can use it, you can use it. So I'm very aware that I need to go through the process of, before I knock any walls out, making sure that it is what it fits all the codes and it's permitted properly, et cetera.
We'll work with you. best we can, but
Awesome.
just got to go through
Yep.
the process.
Absolutely.
And you've had a beer license in the other establishments,
I currently have 3 beer permits with Loudoun County.
so you're aware of the server requirements and so
Yep.
forth.
Yep.
Do we have a packet for him, just to?
I'll go grab it.
We have a packet that we give out to all the business owners that are going to have a beer license,
Mm-hmm.
and you probably have this information, but in case you don't, or maybe something there you're not aware of, but it helps with the training of your staff and so
Sure.
forth. So,
Yeah, I currently have 50 employees with TABC cards. So
You're aware.
yeah.
okay. Any other questions by the beer board?
We're excited that you're keeping that business, that space open and alive, and we really appreciate you
Awesome.
coming in behind them.
Yeah, I'm looking
They-
forward to it.
They worked very hard, and I know that Pat was tired,
Yes.
so we really appreciate you picking up and carrying on.
Thank you.
Glad to have you part of our community.
Thanks.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. You have it.
Thank you.
Shoot, maybe we don't. You, oh. Oh, it's in the back. There's a packet there for you. Thank you again. All right, next item. Approval of Class 6 Special Occasion Beer Permit for the Farragut Business Alliance Dog Days 3 event, August 16th through the 18th, 2019.
Yes, sir. This is very similar to the application they had last year. And the Farragut Business Alliance has requested for the $100 application fee to be waived since the town is a sponsor. So the proposed motion is to waive the $100 application fee and approve the special occasion beer permit for the Dog Days 3 for August 16th through the 18th.
So moved.
Second.
All right. I see we have a representative. Step up to the podium, please. Who might that be?
Steve Krimpaski, 10609 Chevy Drive, Knoxville.
Anything new?
Other than crossing paths with that guy, I'd give him an opportunity to serve some of that beer over in Village Green Shopping Center. Nothing new other than it's bigger and better. And things are coming along very well with it right now. All of the sponsors are lining up, and people seem excited, and Smoky Mountain Dock Dogs Club expects another sold-out registration again this year, so. The only downside is that Dock Dogs International charged me more money to bring it.
Yeah,
All right. Any other questions by the board?
None.
I have none.
None good.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's approved. If there's any other business or any other comments by the board?
None.
All right, we are adjourned.
Okay. Time to go get dinner. We got time to go get dinner. Time to go get dinner.
Is it 7 o'clock? Yeah, it's 7:02.
Okay, time is approximately 7:02 PM. The June 27th, 2019 Farragut Board Mayor and Alderman will now come to order. We will first have a silent prayer tonight, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to our country's flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, agenda. Are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
No, sir.
None?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, with a quorum and a motion and a second, all in favor vote by saying yes.
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 Motion to adopt posted agenda has been approved. Okay, tonight, Mayor's report will have 2 items. The first will be the appointment of the Farragut resident Scott Russ to the Farragut Municipal Planning Commission. Scott's appointment will be to fulfill the unexpired term of Ed Whiting, who retired after this month's Planning Commission meeting. Another item that's of importance to announce, the Board Mayor and Alderman welcomes and invites Farragut citizens to participate in all public meetings. We set aside time for citizens forum after we finish town business. To participate during the citizens forum or during the agenda items, we ask that you pick up an agenda as you come in the room and read the Farragut Board Mayor and Alderman meeting protocol printed on the back. If you can agree to the comment protocol, then please fill out a blue slip and turn it in to our staff. The comment protocol will be followed by all speakers during our meetings. I'll now yield the floor to the Vice Mayor for her report.
There's two things I wanted to make mention of. We had the ribbon cutting for our stage in Founders Park on Campbell Station Road, was it 2 Saturdays ago? For the first Lawn Chair Series concert for this year. What is this, the third, fourth year? Fifth year. They have brought an incredible music series to our town. It's a wonderful experience for anyone who hasn't attended. It really is a wonderful opportunity to just see Farragut growing and changing and evolving and what we really want to see. Shandy Dixon and Amy Bowling are the Mama Jam group. They've put this together. They volunteer. They work very hard with Sue Stoll and Lauren Cox to make that happen. And this stage that Bud and his group have put together is a fabulous addition to them continuing this concert series. So the next one is Saturday, July 20th at 5 p.m. And we really encourage the community to come out and check it out if you haven't checked it out yet. The other thing I wanted to mention was Campbell Station Road. We had a stormwater infrastructure failure close to the interstate, and it was that construction project went smoothly. Well, not entirely smoothly, but they handled the bumps pretty well. I want to give a shout out to Matt Brazil and Scott Gibson on our staff who worked overnight for 5 nights to make sure that everything was running smoothly and things were being taken care of. That is not easy to go from working during the days to working in the evenings. So I really, my hat's off to him, because I would have been napping on the floor of my truck if it were up to me. So I really appreciate their efforts and the fact that it was finished before they anticipated. So thank you. Did I steal some of your thunder there, David?
No, absolutely not. And I wholeheartedly agree with your assessment on that. Working nights is tough, and they did a great job.
Yes, they did. And that's all I had.
Okay. Thank you, Vice Mayor Pavlin. Okay, approval of minutes. Are there any changes to the posted June 13th, 2019 minutes?
No, sir.
None.
Move for approval?
Second.
Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, vote by saying yes.
Yes.
Okay, the motion to approve posted minutes is passed and will be recorded as official minutes of the June 13th, 2019 Farragut Board and Mayor and Alderman meeting. Okay, business items. We have one business item on tonight's agenda. It'll be the approval of professional design services agreement for the town hall restroom renovation.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll take this one tonight since Mr. McKelvey is not with us. We did consult with Los Design for an initial sketch-up of what we could do to get our current restroom facilities at Town Hall in ADA compliance. If the board recalls, about a year ago now, we went through an ADA assessment, very thorough, by Kimley Horn. One of the things they determined was that at this building, we have the restroom facilities here, obviously being built with the original building in 1990, do not meet ADA. So as we assessed that, we looked at various options, and the option that we are looking at doing is, and I've passed this out to everyone before you at the meeting, is 3 unisex restrooms. So right now we have a men's and a women's facility. We tried to keep everything within the current envelope of where the restrooms are right now. And so the way to do that and keep everything ADA compliant is to change that, instead of having a separate men's and women's restroom, to make the 3 separate unisex restroom facilities. So that way we will be ADA compliant on all of those. To have Los Design continue the process of getting the rest of the design drawings completed and ready for bid, They have given us a lump sum contract of $25,500 in total, and staff would recommend approval of this contract.
I'm going to move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, have a motion with a second. All in favor, vote by saying yes.
I'm going to ask a few questions. Is this the last project we need to do to bring the town hall up to ADA standards, or do we still have?
No,
we
ma'am.
have
There are several projects still left at Town Hall, but this is certainly one of the biggest ones that
Okay.
we will have to do because the restroom facility, obviously, there's a lot to that.
Yeah.
It's probably the most expensive one, frankly. But there are several small things that we have to go and look at all around Town Hall.
Okay, and is that, I think I recall when we talked about that's one of the first things we're trying to finish is our town hall building, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Just because of all the public access to the building, we get so much use out of this building. We thought this would be a good place to start with, and so we are trying to start with this building first and kind of work our way out.
Okay. And obviously, unisex is an option for ADA, meeting ADA standards.
Yes, ma'am. We had to get with both the building official to make sure, based on our occupancy, especially of this room, how many restroom facilities we would need, and 3 unisex does meet those requirements.
Well, let me ask you this, because we've had this controversy in the past. I know when, what's that painting where you can go and drink wine and paint
Painting with
Painting
a
with a
twist.
twist. When they put their building in, they intended to have 2 unisex bathrooms. And they were required to put in, and they were required to put in a male bathroom and a female bathroom. And then they had to create a hallway because they couldn't just close off the rooms and have 2 separate rooms. So if I'm seeing unisex here, and that happened with the Anytime Fitness as well, we had to label one male and one women's and men's. And they were intended to be unisex bathrooms. After a week, we realized it was good that we signed them male, women, and men. But if we're doing this here, is that something that has changed in the code that opens it up to other businesses to be able to do unisex bathrooms as opposed to having to have them?
I wish I could give you the answer to that. I don't know, but I could certainly find out from our building official
Okay.
if there is something new in the code. I know this is an existing facility, not a
Yeah.
brand new facility, and maybe that has something to do with it, but I will find out and give you a report back.
I would love if we could maybe explore that for if that's a doable thing, that we can kind of amend our building codes to accept this, because unisex bathrooms, you're seeing them all over the place now.
Sure.
And for Painting with a Twist, that might be an opportunity for them to expand space. If they could make their bathrooms unisex, they could expand space and have a bigger room. It's right now being taken up with a hallway, so that might be something.
Absolutely.
we need to
I'll be
explore.
happy to talk to our building official about that.
All right, I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I had.
Any more discussion? Okay, I have a motion with a second. All in favor, vote by saying yes.
Yes.
Let the record show that the agreement has been approved. Okay, ordinance, we have 3 ordinances to consider tonight, with all 3 being public hearing on the second reading. Okay, the first one will be ordinance 1919, is an ordinance on the second reading to amend Chapter 2 definitions, to remove reference to clustered housing units in the definition of house trailer, and amending Chapter 3, specific district regulations, Section 11, 12, 15, and 28, to remove references as applicable to group housing facilities, elderly housing, group housing, and elderly group housing. Mark?
All right. This is really, as I mentioned at first reading, a housekeeping matter. We're simply deleting some obsolete terms and uses that became obsolete as a result of amendments we've made to the ordinance in the past. When this was presented to the Planning Commission, they did unanimously recommend approval of this ordinance, and it was approved on first reading as well. There have been no changes to the ordinance since first reading, and staff recommends approval of ordinance 19-19 on second reading.
Okay, then with no changes, I'll ask for a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Okay, the vote will be roll call, please.
All right, Alderman Burnett.
Yes.
Alderman Meyer.
Yes.
Alderman Pinchuk.
Yes.
Alderman Povlin. Mayor Williams.
Okay. Let the record show ordinance 1919 was approved on the second reading. Next, ordinance 1920, an ordinance on the second reading to amend Chapter 2, definitions to provide for a definition for short-term rental unit, bed and breakfast, permitted use, prohibited use, and to modify the definition of family. Or sections 410 and 14 to clarify permitted and prohibited use, prohibited short-term rentals, provide regulations to address grandfathered short-term rentals, and further address the use and development of lots and parcels.
This ordinance does several things. It provides some definitions that we don't currently have, and it also adds some clarification to the definition of family. And these are kind of related to the topic of short-term rentals in general. The ordinance does provide for a prohibition of new short-term rental units within the town, and it refers to grandfathered units as being covered under state law provisions. When this was presented to the Planning Commission in May, they unanimously recommended approval of Ordinance 19-20, and it was also approved on first reading, and there have been no changes to the ordinance since first reading, and the staff recommends approval of Ordinance 19-20 on second reading.
Okay.
I'll move to approve ordinance 1920 on second reading.
Discussion?
I do have a
Okay.
speaker that signed up, sorry. Jennifer Roach.
Hey, it's me again. Hey, I just wanted to come back from the last time that, from the first reading on the short-term rentals and share some of the survey results I did of our Realtor members. So when Knoxville went through its short-term rental ordinance creation in 2016 or thereabouts, it did wanted to see where our membership was because as a association we needed to reflect those opinions and those reasonings as well. And at that time, it was split 50-50 on short-term rentals and every subtopic you can think of. Should you allow short-term rentals? Yes, 50%. No, 50%. I mean, it was in the 40s or something either way. Should you inspect them or not? Should they have to have a permit or not? You know, should they have to be owner-occupied or not? It was all pretty much split down the middle. I did another survey, and I wanted to bring that, you know, as a resource to you guys. And so I did a survey of our Realtor members in Farragut, City of Knoxville, and Knox County. And it was short, and I asked them, you know, do you live in Farragut? Do you sell homes in Farragut? Is your office in Farragut? Or do you live in the city or county? And so overwhelmingly, over 70% of those that responded who live in Farragut, and over 70% of those who responded to the all of those that responded to the survey said that short-term rentals should be permitted in the town of Farragut. Most of those, over 50% of those, said all should be permitted, not just owner-occupied. We advocated our association for suburban areas to find that middle ground and to do only owner-occupied short-term rentals. But, you know, the reason I'm here today is to share those survey results. And I reached out to your tourism director. I haven't heard back. I didn't reach out that long ago. I've got other things that kind of got in the way of that. And I reached out to the chamber, and Julie Blaylock got back to me and said, you know, they haven't discussed it. She was copying her board president to see, you know, if their members had any feelings on it as well. So what I'm here today to ask is that you don't vote on this right now. I don't think it's a fully informed decision. And some of the comments that I heard at the last meeting weren't in that, oh, this is just a stopgap measure, but this is really the policy of the town, that this is our policy stance. We don't want short-term rentals. So what I don't want to see happen is that because we don't have time to deal with short-term rentals right now, we don't have time to really make you know, good regulation, we're just going to put in the stopgap measure and ban them, that stopgap measure stays in for a long time. And Farragut loses out on the tourism issue, loses out. They're
your property owners lose out on options there. And, it's just, I think a decision that needs to be made with more information from your community. I'd be happy to survey the realtors more. I'd be happy to do a workshop on compromises and common ground that we found between realtors and municipalities and those that love short-term rentals and those that hate them, because there are those folks out there. But I would really like to do this the right way for Farragut. So what I'm asking for today is that you postpone that, postpone this ordinance. And then I had a question from last time, and this is you mentioned that you don't have a police force and that there was no noise ordinance or nuisance ordinance. And if you could tell me so that I can educate my realtors, what do I do if a long-term rental or an owner occupant who lives next to me starts creating a nuisance? What is the process?
Dealt with it, yeah.
Well, y'all want to.
Long-term rental?
So Mark,
If I have a neighbor, be they short-term rental, long-term rental, or owner occupant, and they're having a raucous party, and there's a noise issue, there's cars along the street, there's parking issues, and there's nuisance issues, health, safety, and welfare, what is the process? Because I need to be able to, let my realtors know that they're selling houses in a place where people's property is going to be protected, where they have some way to take care of that. So that brought up, this is not really this is in the short-term rental realm, but it also brought up the larger issue of, I just wanted to know the process. Who do I call as a homeowner?
well, we have to, if you're talking about a single incident, that's a Knox County Sheriff's Office.
Okay.
We would call that. But if we have a long-term nuisance issue, we've been dealing with that actually in one of our neighborhoods.
Okay.
And Mark's been handling that. Lucky Mark.
Mark is lucky in a lot of things.
Yeah.
So that was a real concern for me. It's like, well, are we selling property somewhere where there's not those services available? So if it is the sheriff's department for a one-time noise complaint or something like that, loud music at 2 a.m., then it's the sheriff's department. So that's whether it's short-term rental, long-term rental, or not. Okay, that was just a question I wanted answered from there. So I want to be here as a resource, and and I'm sorry I didn't come in when it was at the Planning Commission, but I would just really hope that we could all, get some parties to the table and make a good ordinance that works for the town for short-term rentals, that makes them work for your tourism, that gets your residents selling Farragut for you, that really adds to your whole presence and doesn't disturb the town and doesn't infringe on people's property rights to be able to do this as well.
Can I ask you?
Yeah.
When I look at short-term rental, bed and breakfast, is the majority of what we're talking about Airbnb?
The majority is Airbnb. Yeah, short-term, people will use the term Airbnb, and they mean short-term rentals. So people call them vacation rentals when they're in Gatlinburg or on a beach town. But short-term rentals is defined as anything less than 30 days. It's going to be, if you kept to the owner-occupied version, that would be me renting out my room. It's like somebody coming to visit me while I live there. And in suburban areas, like even in the city of Knoxville, we advocated for a limited short-term rental allowance, saying only owner-occupied short-term rentals in residential zones, because we need to protect long-term housing stock. We don't need vacant investors buying up long-term housing and changing them to short-term rentals. It's not good for the neighborhood. It's not good for our market right now. People disagree with me on that, but it's a priority call. Yeah.
Jennifer, I have a couple questions. So
Yeah.
your survey was of realtors, correct?
Yeah, realtors, yeah.
Okay. Have you ever surveyed the hotel owners and their views on short-term rentals?
There are some surveys out there of that, and I would suggest the town do that. There are a lot of resources out there. I'm sure if you talk to the hotel owners, their first answer would probably be, we hate them. We don't want them. And I think it's a little more nuanced than that, and I totally get it. If you look at the short-term rentals you've got in Farragut, there's like 7. I don't think it's a huge priority issue right now to ban them, because I don't think there's going to be very many in the long term. They're priced a lot lower than the hotels. So, I'm not going to use a short-term rental because I don't like to use those unless I'm in a vacation town. So it does reach different clienteles. It's a little bit nuanced. Some people say the short-term rental tax is supposed to level the playing field. It's two different animals. A short-term rental and a hotel room are two different things. But I think what we're seeing from the trend in our members who are even property owners in this town saying, yeah, we need to have short-term rentals is there is a limited place for it. You've got your whole housing stock in Farragut and short-term rentals. You should do your, I would suggest making your ordinance so it remains a small slice of the pie. You're going to need to get the hotel folks at the table and see if they are amenable to, or not.
And they
Yeah.
don't support it. Also, in your survey,
sure they
the gentlemen that I've spoke to are not supportive of this.
Same here.
And so, secondly, in your survey, did you survey residents who live near short-term rentals currently in existence in Farragut?
There's only 7, so I highly doubt it.
Okay, thank you.
And so from your statement, so this is not a stopgap measure. The ban is your policy. This is the town's policy. We don't want them. Because
Are you
I was under
asking
the
me or are you
understanding this
asking
was
the
just
board?
a.
I can tell you where I stand if you like. Is that what you're?
No, well, I was just asking overall because I think I was under the understanding that the impetus for this was we got other priorities on the plate. We want to just, get this in place, ban them, and we'll come back to it and decide later.
I can only speak for my vote. I don't support short-term rentals,
Sure,
and
yeah.
I have not,
Okay.
based on the conversations I've had with hotel owners and residents. So I appreciate your perspective, though, and I like the fact that you've spent a lot of time trying to do research and come up with good facts that support your argument. But
Yeah,
I've
it's-
never supported them, so.
It's a very polarizing issue.
Yeah.
And so, if that's where you are in the town, I totally respect that.
I can
tell
only
you,
speak for
Jennifer,
myself.
I'm open to it being reconsidered at a future date. Really, the reality is, this with the state passing the law, they passed last year. We did not allow it by virtue of not listing it as an allowable use. So when you look at our residential code, it says ordinance, it says what are allowable uses in that. So short-term rentals wasn't listed, so by omission, that means it wasn't allowed. So that's why we've come and we've had to basically make that statement that we're not going to allow them. I would certainly be open to having a discussion about it at some point as our tourism moves along. But I would want to get the HOAs involved so that they understand they can be proactive and amend their covenants if they don't want
Yeah.
to have them in their neighborhoods. But I'd want to have that part of that whole discussion so that the HOAs are brought into it. And I guess that's kind of where I am. Is it's a bigger thing than what you're talking about. It would require a lot more community input. Like you said, we only have 7 in town, so.
And that's where, I get it. Like, there's only 7, so it's not a big deal, so I don't see why there needs to be a ban. But there's only 7, let's get a jump on it and do it now. I totally respect both decisions, and I really want and hope that you will make it a larger conversation.
I appreciate where you're coming from. Thank you.
Any other speakers? No. Thank you, Jennifer. Okay. Any more discussion? Okay.
Just
the
like
vote-
to, I just want to throw out there, Jennifer, it was an interesting discussion with my wife the other night when we were kind of talking about this. And I was reminded very quickly that when Uber first came out, I thought that was the stupidest idea on the planet. And now I would never take anything other than an Uber when I travel. And so I look at this issue, and I've been challenging myself at home and talking with my wife, like, is this the Uber of the next couple years? Like, am I going to look back and think, man, I was just an idiot? And that may be, but where I see our town right now, I don't see it as a good fit. 2 years from now, when we have an entertainment district across the interstate, you come in for that and a UT game, and maybe things change, but where we're at now, I side on the limiting those.
I appreciate that, and the reason I'm here is to be proactive. I'm a resource, so
Yep.
when Knox County approves them and everybody else approves them, and then maybe a couple of years from Farragut, this little one that doesn't, and it's there, so I'm glad, and I appreciate the dialogue, and I respect your decisions. I get it. We may not agree, but it's respectful.
And
Thank you.
has Knox County, have they done anything on it yet?
No.
No.
Knox County hasn't done a lot of things.
No, I know, I understand. And that may be the time to have that discussion in Farragut, because that obviously a lot of people don't really know when they're in Knox County or Knoxville or Farragut. So.
We're trying to get Knox County to mirror the city of Knoxville.
So, I have no problem having that discussion. I think we'd have to have a bigger discussion, and we'd really have to get our HOAs involved and understanding what their rights are, and which is something I've really been interested in, just to get our HOAs together, just to have discussions on other things. So this is one of those things that would be nice to have a conversation about. So I am, as far as I'm concerned, this is not necessarily a done deal. It's just, for now, this is what's effective for what we need to do for now, and maybe open that book again in some time. Yeah.
And Jennifer, I appreciate your research too and your survey. Again, the reason I don't support short-term rentals is simply because being a board of a HO or being a board member of a HOA, I don't want another responsibility on my shoulders to control or try to attempt to control nuisance complaints that come from short-term rentals. I already get enough complaints the way it is about nuisance, and we do call the sheriff, and they don't come for noise issues. So I don't know, maybe I need to have you call on my behalf, but they don't come for noise issues. Now they will come for other reasons, like it's illegal to shoot fireworks often in Knox County, and they might come for something like that, but they're not going to come for a noise nuisance issue, and therefore I can't. Maybe we should, maybe we can, but that's why. It's not because I don't. If we had other mechanisms other than expecting a bunch of HOA board members who are also volunteers to enforce nuisance issues, then if we had other means for that, I might be open to it, but I'm not at this time. So thank you, though. Appreciate it.
Any more discussion? Okay, this vote will be by roll call as well.
Alderman Meyer,
Yes.
Alderman Pinchot,
Yes.
Alderman Pavlin,
Yes.
Alderman Burnett,
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. Okay.
Thanks for being here.
We appreciate
A
it.
fantastic argument.
Let the record show that ordinance 1920 was approved on second reading. Okay, next will be ordinance 1921. This is an ordinance on the second reading to amend Chapter 3, specific district regulations, Section 7, Open Space Residential Overlay District, OSR. Subsection E, Part 5, maximum lot coverage to revise and clarify the calculation of total building area and total lot coverage.
This ordinance really cleans up some language in the OSR as it applies to calculating maximum lot coverage numbers and percentages. It also provides for addressing a scenario where someone combines 2 or 3 lots into one to give them a little more flexibility in how coverage is allocated in a situation like that. So when this was presented to the Planning Commission in May, they did unanimously recommend approval. It was approved on first reading. There have not been any changes to this ordinance since first reading, and the staff recommends approval of ordinance 19-21 on second reading.
I'll move to approve ordinance 19-20 on second reading.
Discussion? Okay, this will also be a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Pinchot,
Yes.
Alderman Pavlin,
Yes.
Alderman Burnett,
Yes.
Alderman Meyer,
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. Okay, let the record show that ordinance 1921-21 was approved on the second reading. Okay, next will be citizens forum. Do we have anyone signed up to speak tonight?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now the Town Administrator's report. I will now yield the floor to Town Administrator David Smoke.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple things tonight. One is we just received notification today that Allison Myers and the town of Farragut were awarded the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting by the Government Finance Officers Association for our CAFR this year. So kudos to Allison and everyone, all the department heads for a great job.
How many years in a row is this?
25?
25 or 26.
Wow. We should get a cake for that.
I should.
Second that.
We get a little plaque that we get to put up on the wall, so
Okay.
We'll just add that to it.
Cake or the plaque?
But no, Allison does a fantastic job, and obviously the CAFR is made so that people can read it and understand it, hopefully, what all the things that we do in the town of Farragut from a financial perspective. She does a great job of making that as easy to read as possible for something like that, so appreciate all of her efforts. Also, we have a big event coming up next week, our July 4th parade. And this year is a little different than most because of some construction going on at the Farragut High School area. So one of the things I wanted to make sure everybody's aware of is because of that, West Point Drive, which is the main drive heading up to that we're going to be pulling down floats this year, is going to be closed from 6:30 a.m. to approximately 10:45 a.m. The parking area, we're going to head up West End Avenue this year. That's going to be the only way to get to the high school, so it's going to take some extra time. So anybody that's going to be in the parade needs to get there a little earlier than normal. We will be closing off the access toward where Taco Bell is, and that's where the area will come down into the actual Kingston Pike and be a little bit longer this year, just a touch longer than in past years. The access to West End Shopping Center will still be open, but we encourage everybody to get there before 8 o'clock, if possible, 8 to 8:15 in the morning as the latest, and we'll be pulling down floats around 9 o'clock that morning. So just a heads up, but it'll be a great day, and hopefully everybody will have a little patience with us as we work on the new route this year. So with that, that's all I have to report.
Okay, thank you, David. Looks like we did not have a town attorney tonight, so there will be no report from him. Any other board items? Time is approximately 7:35 p.m., and without objection, the June 27th, 2019 Board and Mayor and Alderman meeting is now adjourned.